Hey there. So I'm going to do another video. This one is going to be about um, just specifically um, some stuff that I kind of felt I left out in my last video, but not specific to anything on Cynthia G. Specifically, well, the mindset basically is kind of similar to Cynthia G's. Is what I really want to talk about, really. It's like a lot of the time I feel like these mammies, basically, and black women who have been in bad relationships with black men and have now become bitter over it seem like it's confusing to me because it's like, as someone who is divested and a spoiler, I'm like, do we really give white people the same benefit? Like, we try to, like, I'm not going to include myself actually, because I mean, like, I don't think this myself, but there's a lot of mammies who basically will say, like, that black men are all these bad things, and have this mentality that black men are all these bad things, like, don't provide, they're not builders, they aren't competing with other races of men, that black men are basically failures, all they do is just procreate, commit violence, and, you know, uh, don't even take care of their kids. And it's like, from my perspective, it's like, okay, if you really think that that's the case for black men, I don't understand the idea of other races of men. Like, have black men been as wrong or had a bad mentality towards black women as much as other races? Do you really think that? I'm just curious. Like, from my perspective, I'm like, well, if we deal with other races, we always give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not racist, right? So we understand that, like, for example, white men are not all racist. If I had the same mentality as, black women who are, into black men and all they've done is been with black men, if I extrapolate their behavior to my lifestyle as a woman who is a spoiler and a divester, and the focus on, random black men not liking them, or random black men attacking them, or random black men being against black women, you know. And it's like, okay, if you are against random black men and you're going to extrapolate it to all black men, I would be doing the same thing basically with white men, basically, because we know there's white men that are racist, but we don't just say all white men are racist. We don't just say, all Hispanic men are racist and white beaters. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because we kind of know that, that's not quite accurate. It's not accurate that black men are all, you know, messed up, basically, and not able to produce a good lifestyle for their families, that they're not builders, that they're not providers, etc. That's not the case for all black men. We know that some black men are actually good fathers, and, they are living successful lives. But you want to try and frame black men that way. And it's like, from my perspective, I was like, if I was in the same mindset as you guys, all I'd ever do was attack Hispanic men and white men. Because, I mean, like, I've fought on racism for a long time. Hispanic men, oh, yeah. Hispanic men and women, actually. Um, on different racist issues, because a lot of Hispanics don't like Dominicans, and they don't like you, especially if you are black and you're only like a small part Hispanic or whatever, Dominican or whatever. They really, are really racist against you, as if you're, you know, fully black, so it really doesn't matter to them. Um, Black American, that is. Because Dominicans are black too. But that's the thing, just from my perspective, I just don't understand why people are always trying to, like, you know, act like black men are all these bad things as a collective whole because they've experienced bad experiences from black men. But, I mean, haven't we all experienced racism from Hispanics, Asians, and white people? So are all white people racist? All Hispanic people racist? Asian people racist? Like, seriously. And I mean this especially for the mammies, the ex-mammies who are, into white men. I don't hold anything against them specifically on their choice. I mean, like, I'm a spoiler. I'm divested, and I don't see anything wrong with being with a white man. But what I'm saying is, if you extrapolated the mentality of what mammies have on black men, as if black men are, basically all these negative characteristics, as someone like Cynthia G claims, but at the same time, you're not going to extrapolate that to other races of men. How fair is that? You know, you just want to set a certain narrative. Maybe you came into this thinking that, black men are less than. Maybe you came into this with a preconceived notion that black men were inferior, and that's why for you don't like the fact that you've encountered some bad black men, and now you're extrapolating it to all of them because that's what you came in thinking in the first place. So, to me, that's my opinion on that. I just think a lot of the time, a lot of people who deal with black men and become bitter, I don't know what to call them. Some people don't like to call them mammies. I see them as mammies because what they're really attracted to is black men. They're just hurt black women, you know. It's just like, to me, like, from my perspective, though, I'm like, I wouldn't just say a bad experience with one white man or arguments with one Hispanic man would make me think that, all white men are a certain way, all Hispanic men are a certain way. Heck, I complain a lot about the fact that Hispanic men are culturally very different, and I don't like that. I like people who are culturally like Americans, and that's the thing, like white Americans who are more integrated with the American culture, I appreciate more than like Hispanics who either get absorbed by like hip hop culture, which I don't know anything about, or ones that are more into their Hispanic culture, which I don't really know much about there either. Um, so, I mean, that's just my perspective on everything. It's just like, I think a lot of people get really, really in a point where I think mainly the gender wars with the men, and I'll say this with the men and the women. It's not just men or just women. It's both, There's a lot of self hate, okay? A lot of people who are against the women don't like themselves, and a lot of people like Cynthia G, who are against the men, hate themselves. And that's why they come up with the preconceived notion that black men are going to fail, black men are less than, black men are inferior, because they are of the mindset that black is less than. Ergo, why they get angry at women of other races, because they feel inferior to other races because they feel black is less than. And they feel that their blackness puts them at a lower position. That's why they always act like they're inferior and jealous about being inferior. The truth is, blackness does not make you less than, Blackness is beautiful. blackness is powerful, and you don't have to feel less than any white woman just because you are black. You're beautiful in your own way. Everyone's beautiful in their own way. Hispanic women are beautiful in their own way. Mixed women are beautiful in their own way, natural way at that. Black women are beautiful in their own way. White women are beautiful in their own way. There's no need for anybody to hate on anybody in regard to their race because you're beautiful in the way you are, and no one can take your place as a beautiful black woman because you are the black woman. Just like no one can take the place of a white woman because she's a white woman and that's her strength. So that's why I think feeling inferior about being black makes them transfer how they feel about blackness with the men that they're with, and they think that the blackness, the man being black, makes him an inferior man, makes him a conquered man, as many say. An inferior man, a man with a pathology, so to speak. You know, and no race of man is messed up naturally. It isn't. There are some messed up white men, messed up black men, messed up Hispanic men, messed up Asian men. Personally, for me, with the whole divestment movement, I like the divestment movement not for black men. I never understood that. That to me never had to do with it. It was to me like, well, if you were attracted to black men and they turned out to be bad black men that you chose, maybe you could choose a better black man. That was my perspective. But I mean, people do what they want to do, and that's their choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do or who to date. Interracial dating, to me, I'm for it for black men and black women. So that's just how I am. I like visibility of interracial couples because basically, we need more visibility and we need to be seen as just like everybody else, normal, who's into, whatever race we're into. You know, love is love. But, for me personally, with divestment, it's kind of like I have always been of the mindset like divestment and level up had nothing to do with black men for me. It's always had to do with being with a better type of white man, being serious specifically for me, because I am definitely, like, my dating history is very not serious. So it's always like, divestment is about growing up to me. Divestment is about choosing a better man. But that's got nothing to do with race to me. I mean, like, I'm naturally attracted to white men, whether they have money or whether they don't. Another thing is, I get annoyed with this whole idea of being a spoiler has to do with, being a sugar baby or only wanting white men for money. I mean, like, if you're only using a white man for money, there's two problems here. One, you think that, again, you're inferior, your men are inferior, and that black men can't get you what you want because they don't have money, they're not successful enough, so you go to white men. Secondarily, you don't really like white men, you don't really love white men. You just want to use white men. That's so different. That's not actually, in my opinion, and, like, that's not really love. And interracial dating is about love. Interracial relationships are about love. Interracial marriage is about love. So to me, that's my perspective. You know. But yeah, that's about it. Like, that's all I have to say. It's just like I feel like the perspective on swirlers and divestors is very different, and it gets entwined with these people who think negatively of black men, and you know think that because they see black men in a negative light, and they see themselves in a negative light, and they see blackness in a negative light, that they will be with white men, and that basically is what makes them think they're basically squirrelers and they prefer white men. But in reality, if they didn't hate themselves, who would they prefer? I don't know what that answer is. They can only answer that question. But that's a question that they should ask themselves, in my opinion, because it's like, who do you really love? Who do you really like? Who could you really actually be with outside of having a biased view of your own race? Who would you really be with? You know? So that's all I have to say on that. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to tell anyone who to be with or anything like that. I can't. That's not my job. But I'm just saying my perspective on that. So, thanks for watching and bye.